Welcome back, everybody. Here, glad to be joined by Coach Dan O'Rourke of Hanover. His team he's won multiple state championships. He's a very good coach, but they're having a challenging year this year. So I'm excited to have him on. He can kind of tell us about some of the challenges that a team goes through when you're having a little bit of a tough year and how you overcome that. So I'm excited to get that perspective. Coach, super glad to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me back. Good to talk to you and look forward to the next 30 minutes.
Me as well. So let's talk about your team that you have coming back this year. A little bit of a different group from last season. Obviously, you guys unfortunately lost some of the players from last season and are kind of developing this new group this year. What can you tell us about your roster?
Well, it's been a great group of kids. Yes, we lost a lot last year, but this group has from day one been very focused, and really the effort and energy has always been there. The excitement has been there. Every day that we're in the gym, we're working, and we've really been focusing on getting better and going back to some of the fundamentals. Defensively, we're a good team to start the year, and we've only gotten better throughout the year. And offensively is where most of our struggles have been. But with that being said, again, we're each game's a little different, different opportunity, different look, and the kids are really showing progress. And so, despite our record, I'm still optimistic, excited. It's really a journey of trying to continue to prove throughout the season, and that's really what the kids have been doing.
Fantastic. I think that's super important. For you, how do you keep your team focused and dialed in? I know it can be challenging as somebody who's been on a team that's had a losing record and been in a tough situation. When you're having these losses, how do you continue to get them to be inspired and stay positive and come into practice every day with a good attitude?
Well, I think first of all, we as coaches, it's important we stay positive, and we have. And it's not we're not using wins and losses as our metric. We're trying to focus on the improvement process, and so we've tried to break it down into the various parts of the game that we've been struggling on, and breaking down the practices into those fundamentals, trying to get better, and then highlight those areas where we are getting better and what we're doing well. Against some of the better teams this year, we've held them defensively to below their average. And so we've been focusing on that aspect. So we really have been trying to set mini goals based on the area of focus that we've been dedicating a lot of practice time to. And, by the season's end, hopefully these things will start to come together, and, the wins will come. But we're not using the wins and losses this year as our metrics.
I think that's a really good point. Let's talk about your team a little bit defensively. Do you guys like to play zone or more man?
We've been, this year's been sort of fun. We've been trying to hold a lot of different things, and the kids have really been engaged and energetic, and they've started to adopt defense as one of their mottos. And so we've gone man to man. We'll do matchup zones. We'll do 2-1-2 matchup to a 3-2 matchup. We've thrown in some box and one, diamond and one. So we've really been all over the place where it's been effective. I think it's also kept some teams off balance, which has been to our advantage. And we're not a big team, so one of our key focus areas has been that we really need to rebound by committee, and we need 5 girls in the paint crashing the boards, especially the defensive boards, each possession, because I think our tallest kid is only about 5'8".
If I'm not mistaken, it's a bit of a younger group this year than it was previous years. So I think you guys, do you have mostly sophomores and some freshmen?
We have 4 sophomores, a junior, and 3 seniors. With that being said, we really only had 2 players that had meaningful varsity experience coming back. So again, it's all been new. It's a new experience. They're now, they had to transition from being more of a role player or situational player to having a larger role. And that just takes time for them to develop, them to feel comfortable. And, last night, one of our seniors started to blossom, scored 18 points. And so it's fun to see when it happens. And that's why at the beginning of the year, I knew going into this season, it would just take time for this process to start to unfold. And I think we're now mid-season, we're starting to see the fruits of what the kids have really been working hard on since the beginning of the year.
It's really good to hear. On the offensive side of the ball, you guys, same thing. I think you're learning stuff, new stuff with a little bit of a younger group that, they'll be better off for the stuff that you're learning this year on the defensive side of the ball and having more of a variety of knowledge at their disposal. And towards the end of the second half of the schedule this year and also next year. And then for you guys on offense, can you talk about your offense? Who are your primary scores and what are you guys looking to do to score more? Because you guys have been improving defensively and been good overall. Offensively, what are you saying and how do you improve?
I think offensively, it's also been offense by committee. We don't really have a go-to player, and so we really need all 8 girls that are on the varsity to produce and contribute. And it's really important that we do. And so, we've been focusing on patience, ball movement, getting good shots. Last night's game against Hollis, we had a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter. And again, another learning opportunity, game time situation or game score situation. We had some ill-advised shots at some inopportune times and they didn't fall and they were able to catch us and take a lead. And it was a 1-point game the whole last minute of play. And we had our opportunities to win the game and the ball just didn't fall our way, but we got the shots we wanted. And so each of these games, we're learning something new and the kids just have to continue to stay focused and try to each of them look to score because again, as I mentioned, a lot of these kids in the past had a different role. And so while they were trying to set up a shooter or set a screen for one of our top scorers, now this year we really need them to have that mindset of putting the ball in the hoop. And it's, it just takes time. And I have no doubt we'll get there. And we're already seeing the progress. So it's been exciting.
I'm glad to see that you guys are making progress. I think that's fantastic for the league. It's always good when you have good Hanover teams, especially. So Hollis Brookline last night, 36-38. That was a tough one, but as sounds like you saw some good stuff overall from your team. I would say that's a statement game considering the fact that you were able to keep it that close against a team who's top 10 in the division. What can you tell us about last night's matchup?
It was a lot of fun. The kids were confident, and we played a really nice first half. I think at halftime it was 20-15. We were ahead, and third quarter they caught us. It was tied, but then in the fourth quarter we went on a nice little run again, opened up a 5-point lead. And again, we held their top scorer, to below her average, and it was a back and forth. Yeah, they caught us on. They had size. They had down low. They had some 2 or 3 5'11" kids who, unfortunately, just size got us, and they got some putbacks. But overall, again, the kids moved the ball well. We got the shots we needed, and they're high quality shots, and they just didn't fall towards the end. But after the game, we said it was a winnable game. Our energy, focus, everything's there. And, Co-Brown's next. And so we'll be looking each game. And if you look at our season, we've except for, a few games, we really didn't have a chance to win there. All the other games, we've at least been within striking distance. And if we could get some of the shots to fall, we'll be there.
I agree. Co-Brown coming up at home next Tuesday night, and then I think it's Friday night. You guys are going to be at Conval. Talk about those two teams for a minute and what you're expecting, what you guys are you kind of have to do well in order to have a chance against those teams.
Yeah, I think Co-Brown in many ways is similar to Hollis. You know, they will play a 3-2 zone. They like to get out in transition. We're going to need the box out again because they're also another team that's been aggressive on the boards. They'll throw a 2-2-1 full court press at us. So we just have to be prepared. And, good news is we're at home. You know, in our first 6 games, we only had one at home. Last night was our second home game. So it's nice to be able to be back where, we're practicing and we can use the court, which we're a lot more familiar with. We have a bigger court, so that helps us, especially against teams that try to press us. And so Co-Brown, I think, will be another test, much like last night. And Conval as well. You know, Conval away, it's probably about an hour and 15, 20 minutes for us. So it's going to be a long bus ride. It's supposed to be cold all next week. So it's never been easy driving that far, getting off the bus and playing. But, we're going to need to be ready. As I told the kids, we're gonna win a game here or there that we're not expected to. And we just need to win the games that we at least have a shot. So season's not over. We still have 11 games left. Fully expect us to put some wins on the board and keep going.
Sounds good. Something that we discussed last year a little bit was the impact COVID had on the overall basketball culture, the interest, and that how that affected programs differently depending on how the towns handled it. Now we're in a position where everyone who was in high school during COVID has since graduated, so that's changed things a little bit. However, I feel like what happened with COVID changed the culture of New Hampshire basketball a little bit, and it left its mark on certain programs. What's your opinion on kind of the remnants of that, and how is that affecting your team and your program overall?
Well, I think it's affected New Hampshire girls basketball overall. Just because when you look at, yes, this started 5 years ago, but if you think of the ninth graders in high school right now, they were in fourth grade. The 10th graders obviously in fifth grade and all the way up. And fourth grade to eighth grade are key developmental years. And so a lot of the kids, I think the overall fundamentals throughout New Hampshire basketball, and obviously there are some very good teams out there, so it hasn't affected everybody. But I think overall the level of play and the fundamentals that I've seen are just not as solid or sound as they once were several years ago. Now, whether that's a direct effect of COVID, I'm sure COVID had something to do with it, but also the whole landscape of high school basketball is changing. There's more kids that are going to prep, and that's diluting the talent at the high school level. But, the one thing and then I think maybe the interest, because a lot of programs, ours included, have low numbers. And so that just the number of kids that are playing high school basketball right now is lower than it has been in the past. So I'm sure it's multifactorial in nature, but I think COVID had played a role in the developmental stage of a lot of these kids.
In terms of the interest level of the sport, things obviously change. Culture changes. We're in a position now where there's a lot more things for kids to do. You can branch out. Kids can go to work and get a job while they're in high school. Kids can play a different sport, do skiing or something like that. There's plenty of things to do. What's your opinion on kind of the changes, if you've seen any, in terms of like the interest in playing high school sports?
I think kids want to play high school sports. I think one of the issues in New Hampshire, which is more of a rural state, and the size of a lot of our schools, the number of sports that are offered per season has expanded. And while, the nice part about that is it offers tons of opportunities and matches kids' interests. So that's the positive of having multiple different sports in a season. The downside is when you have a limited number of athletes, that pool that you're trying to take from, it starts to dilute the talent and perhaps in several different sports. So I think having the number of sports that we have here at Hanover has definitely affected the basketball program. When I first started in the program 30 years ago, there weren't as many sports offerings for girls, and we had over 50 kids in our program. Now there's probably exponential increase in that, and again, that's a positive. But at the same time, because of our reduced enrollment and the increase in the number of sports offered each season, now we're down. This year, we're only to 14 kids in the program, so it's definitely affected, and it's had both a positive effect and some negative effects as well.
Can you talk a little bit about that more specifically, both the pros and the cons of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, not everybody's going to like, say, if we just had basketball, softball, volleyball, or whatever, and you have a limited number of sports. There's kids that like field hockey, there's kids that like volleyball, there's kids that like skiing, there's kids that like hockey, et cetera, et cetera. And so the more sports you have, you're going to have a lot of interest and you're going to match those kids. So instead of having maybe 100 or 40 kids playing basketball, now you have a student body of 180. And one of the most popular sports at Hanover is crew, where regularly they have close to 150 boys and girls playing, which is fantastic. But that, then there are some athletes, that if we didn't have 100 kids playing soccer on 4 or 5 different teams, perhaps some of those kids would start playing football or run cross country. So it just takes it. Because of our smaller numbers, there's just not enough athletes to perhaps field a lot of these teams.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I think one of the pros for you guys is you guys have players with the opportunities to get a lot of minutes now because you have fewer. You guys must have a JV team as well?
Yep, we have only 6 girls on our JV team, and we have 8 on varsity.
So do you guys swing a bunch of players in general?
We haven't. We've been fortunate that I probably shouldn't say this, but knock on wood, we haven't had any significant injuries, and we haven't had anybody in significant foul trouble. As we told all the kids, playing time will not be an issue this year. And because of our limited numbers, it was also imperative that we were in the best shape we could be. Because with that many kids, we have to keep them in tip-top shape so they can run 32 minutes. And so we try to go every 2-3 minutes and keep everybody fresh and fresh legs. And so far, it's worked.
Something that I think a lot of people don't understand about coaching is it's not just Thanksgiving to the spring process, end of the winter, whatever you want to call it, when the season ends. It's a multi-year process, oftentimes, to build up a program. When you're having a team like you have this year, and they're getting younger and they're improving with the minutes that they're getting, hopefully you guys rooting for you guys to win some games. No doubt about it. You guys are very capable of doing that and getting back to the level that you want to be. Do you anticipate there be higher interest in upcoming years if the program starts performing a little bit better?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's necessarily the wins and losses that will make us excited. I think also the Caitlin Clark effect and the whole women's WNBA has helped. So we have a developmental program that we've had for the last 15 plus years. And between grades 3 and 8, we just had tryouts. And between grades 3 and 8, we had over about 60 girls signed up. So, our feeder program is very solid, and the interest is there. I think we're in a weird stage where we where girls stopped playing during the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade several years ago, and we had a few girls this year just chose a different interest, and so we just, I think this is a one-off. I don't think this is going to be a long-term issue, and so I think and it'll be a few probably years to get back to where we have been historically. But I fully expect that, with time and continued energy and effort and dedication, that we'll get back to where we were.
Looking forward to seeing that. Beyond just basketball and what you're trying to teach people on the court, obviously coaches are also can be mentors and teach life lessons as well. What's your philosophy in terms of that, and what life skills do you want your players to get out of this playing high school hoops that they hopefully will take with them after high school?
Well, I think what that question is the essence of coaching. We really aren't here to pad our portfolio wins and losses. We're really, as coaches, number one, we're educators, and the primary focus is to teach life lessons and to, excuse me, to give the kids a valuable athletic experience as a supplement to the coursework in the classroom. And the gym and basketball is our venue, our classroom, so to speak. And this year, I think there's many life lessons that the kids are learning as we go. Staying positive when adversity is there. They're learning how to handle defeat and, not giving up and continuing to work hard, be dedicated, be committed to the cause, being a teammate. This year we need everybody. It's a team by committee that's important. And, how do we optimize and how do we help each other in constructive feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So as you know, when you get into your professional lives, it really is about team and how well your team functions within the organization within which you work has a lot to do with how successful you are. And I think these kids are learning this year the importance of staying positive, working hard, and being a good teammate. And that's probably the biggest take-home points that they're learning this year.
Final thing I want to ask you, Coach, what's your advice for younger coaches who are trying to build up their programs?
I would say first and foremost, understand who you are as a coach. What are your beliefs? What are your principles, your ethics? Who are you? Because your program that you build will be based on those core values. And then once you have the core values in place that you're going to run your program by, it's very important that you stick by those core values. And then start to put in your mission, your plan. You have to have a coaching philosophy. When it gets into whatever your sport is, are you going to be an up-tempo, slow down, man-to-man zone, all that sort of stuff. But I think also it's, you have to have energy. I think, as you mentioned, this is not a November to March job. It really is a year-round job, and it takes a lot of time. So you have to balance your family life with your coaching passion. And then also you have to continue to be an ongoing learner. It's you always can learn something from someone. I have learned a lot this year myself. And so having that philosophy or mindset of wanting to continue to improve yourself, improve your program with kids at the center of everything you do, I think are the keys to becoming a successful coach.
Fantastic advice, Coach. Appreciate your time so much. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a bunch and is completely free. Thank you.